2023 is gonna be our year, y'all. Like, there are so many book releases that have already been announced, and we're not even in 2023 yet. Hey cutie, it's Cunning Little Cutie, and today I'm going to be going through all of my most anticipated new releases for 2023, and there are a lot of them, so buckle up. So for most of this video, I'm gonna be going in chronological order of like the month in which the book comes out, but there are a couple that I'm just so excited about. I need to talk about them right now. First up, you probably know what I'm gonna say, okay? Like it's not a surprise. It is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Somebody Play Mastermind by Taylor Swift. I am so excited for this book. Literally, Jennifer Lynn Barnes is a freaking genius. She waited just long enough for us to all get the final gambit, finish it, and then literally be like literally, I finished the final gambit and I literally was texting one of my friends on Bookstagram and was like, this is perfectly set up for a spin-off series. Like, surely this is not gonna be the last one. Like, she has to take advantage. Like, there's so many places that this story could go. And then the next day, like, I kid you not, the next day, she announces that she is doing just that very thing. So it sounds like this book is gonna focus mainly on Jameson and Grayson's extended family, like outside of the Hawthornes, which is really exciting because we saw a little bit of Grayson's family, but I don't think we've seen any of Jameson's family yet. So I'm really interested to see like what kind of families they come from. You would think it couldn't possibly be crazier than the Hawthornes, but then again, like, you never know. Also, I read in the description that it says Jameson has to like infiltrate a super exclusive, like preppy London underground gambling ring and like do some impossible task. So I'm so excited. Also, okay, let me know down in the comments if you are Team Jameson or Team Grayson, because I started out Team Grayson in the beginning, but I was won over to Team Jameson. So like, let me know. But I honestly love both of them, so let me know your thoughts. Okay, next up in my like super anticipated releases, we have Never a Hero by Vanessa Lynn. And this is the sequel to Only a Monster, which was my favorite fantasy book that I read this year. It is all about time travel, and it is set in London, primarily in the 90s, which is really cool. And it features a like super swoony love triangle. Like, I honestly could not tell you who she's going to end up with. I feel like most time travel stories, it's really easy to pick them apart and be like, that doesn't really make sense if you think about it. Like, how does this work, and like what are the like mechanics of this situation? But honestly, this story makes so much sense, and I cannot wait to read the second book. And then the last book out of like the three that I am like super duper excited to read is called A British Girl's Guide to Hurricanes and Heartbreak by Laura Taylor Namey. This is the sequel to A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, which I believe came out in 2020. It is so adorable. I have my copy right here because even though I listened to it on audiobook, I had to go and get the physical copy because, I mean, look at that. That's the most adorable cover I've ever seen. So this is basically a spin-off from the first novel. So the first novel follows Leela, who is from Miami, and she has had a really rough go of it. Like, she's lost some loved ones, and her boyfriend broke up with her, and she's like having issues with her best friend. Like, it's just a whole thing, and she's really just stuck in an emotional funk. And so her family sends her to go and stay with relatives that they have in the UK. And so she is a baker, and so she's like learning all these cool British recipes and falling in love with this adorable British boy, and it is just the cutest, most wholesome, like very cottagecore story. Oh my goodness, you have to read it. And so then it was like, I think she intended it to just be a standalone, but it was so popular that she ended up writing a spin-off, which is going to be about the love interest's sister, and it's like flip-flopped now. So the sister is from the UK, but she's traveling to Miami, and of course she's gonna fall in love there, and it's so cute. And I'm just really hoping that it also has an adorable cartoon cover on the book that I can then purchase and put on my shelf next to the first one. So Here's hoping. All right, so those are like my top 3. So now we're gonna go in chronological order with the rest of these. So first up, we have Begin Again by Emma Lord. This is the author of Tweet Cute as well as When You Get a Chance. So she's like a very established like YA rom-com author. I read When You Get a Chance back in January of this year and it was excellent. It was like a Mamma Mia kind of retelling or reimagining, and it was really fun. So I'm really excited about this one. So this is about a girl named Andy who goes to her local community college, and she has like very strict plans set for herself. Like she has very specific life goals, and then of course she gets to college and like none of that works out because it never does. She ends up becoming the like anonymous host of their campus like radio station and kind of like coming into her own through that experience. And she falls in love with her RA with the seafoam green eyes, and it just sounds really cute. It sounds like there's kind of a found family element to it, and it just sounds like a really nice, wholesome, like college romance slash coming of age story. Okay, next up we have This Time It's Real by Anne Liang. This is a young adult rom-com about a girl who goes to this like really fancy international school in Beijing and ends up in a fake dating relationship with the famous actor in her class, because she writes this essay about falling in love that somehow goes viral, except it turns out she's actually never been in love and the whole thing was made up. So she strikes a deal with this actor to basically pretend to be her boyfriend, and in exchange she will write his college application essays for her. But of course we know that they end up falling in love along the way. Like, I didn't even have to read it to tell you that. This is reminding me a lot of XOXO by Axio, just because it also involves like this fancy boarding school where this girl falls in love with like a famous celebrity at her school, and that was one of my favorite romance books that I read this year. I literally ate it up. Like, I think I read it in like 2 days, which for me is my current record of how fast I've ever read any book. So it was really good, and I have really high hopes for this one as well. Okay, next up I don't know why I didn't include this one in like the super duper exciting releases part, because this is also a super duper exciting release, and that is Immortality by Dana Schwartz. This is the sequel to Anatomy, a Love Story, which came out earlier this year, and it is just the most ultimate dark academia, gothic romance that you could ever imagine. Like, it is the ultimate atmospheric, like Scottish, like dark kind of romance vibes. It is so good. It is set in the 1800s. It's about this girl named Hazel whose absolute lifelong dream is to be a surgeon, but of course like she can't be a surgeon during that time because she's a girl. And so she strikes up this bargain with the like teacher at the medical school, and they agree that if she can teach herself at home and pass the exams, he will let her attend school. But the only problem is that in order to pass this exam, she has to have cadavers to study on. So in comes Jack, who is a resurrection man, which is basically like somebody who steals bodies from like a graveyard. And they like team up so that she can get the cadavers that she needs, and they end up falling in love. And there's so many scenes set in like really, you know, spooky, eerie graveyards up in Scotland, and it is just so good. And it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I really need to know how it ends. Okay, next up we have Lola at Last by J.C. Peterson. So I did not know that this was gonna be a series, but now I'm super excited and I hope they continue with it. But basically this is a follow-up to the book Being Mary Bennett, which came out either like this year or last year. And it is basically like a modernized retelling of the other Bennett sisters, so like other than Elizabeth, because we love Elizabeth. Like, she's a great main character, amazing Austen heroine, but all of the other sisters are really interesting too. And obviously, like, we don't really get a whole lot of their stories in Pride and Prejudice. So the first one was all about Mary Bennett, who I think is a super underrated character and is actually super relatable if her story is just told right. and I'm super excited to read that book. And then now they've announced that they're coming out with one that's based on Lydia's character too. I cannot wait to read these books. I'm so excited. Next up we have Chaos and Flame by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. And honestly, that is the reason I'm super excited about this book. Like, I'm pretty picky when it comes to fantasy books because sometimes I can get just a little bogged down in like all the details and the world building. Like, sometimes I'll get a little bored with that. So I pick them very carefully. And this one I'm so excited about because Justina Ireland is also the author of Dread Nation, which if you have not read that book, it is fabulous. It is basically set in like a Civil War era America I with zombies, and it is so good, and the main character of that book is so cool and feisty and interesting, and I have all the faith in the world that this author is going to write another really, really good book. And so this one in particular sounds kind of like a Game of Thrones sort of situation, which like I haven't seen, but I mean I know like the general idea because there's all sorts of different like warring families and court politics. We have our main character named Darling, which first of all, super cool main character name, and her adoptive father is kidnapped during battle, and so she like makes it her life's mission to save him no matter what it takes. And then we have Talon, who is like the king's brother and is becoming a little bit concerned because the king is getting like super duper violent, and he's kind of like worried that he's not really leading the country very well. And so one day he meets Darling, and it turns out that the king has been like painting her and has been having like some sort of visions of her for years, and like they've never met her before. So there's some sort of like destined path or destined quest for them to go, and so these like warring families have to become allies to like get through all of these like, you know, dangerous court politics and save her father, and it just sounds like really intriguing and cool. Okay, next up we have A Door in the Dark, which is a new fantasy series that is being compared to A Deadly Education. And I just read the first book in that series in October, and I really enjoyed it. So honestly, anything that is being compared to that is gonna catch my eye. So this book is about a group of students attending a wizarding boarding school, and they're all getting ready to head home for the holidays when suddenly a spell goes very, very wrong and accidentally portals all of them away from their school campus and drops them like in the middle of this like magical wilderness, and it's super dangerous. And so they all have to kind of like get over their collective differences and work together to figure out where they are and get back home before like something bad happens. Okay, so next up we have Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. This is the author of The Nature of Witches and Wild is the Witch. And this one was super exciting because the author announced this like right after Taylor Swift announced her album Midnights. So it's just like really cool how that happened. So basically our main character is betrothed to a guy that she does not love, but it's sort of like a political alliance type of situation where they're trying to bring peace to the witches on this island and the people who live on the mainland. But then the ocean surrounding the island starts to get like super treacherous, and the only person who seems to know how to fix it is this alluring, mysterious love interest who comes onto the scene. And of course our main character is gonna fall in love with him, but being with him would mean that she would have to like leave all of her friends and family behind, and so she's like torn between duty and love. A classic struggle. Next up we have Something Close to Magic by Emma Mills. Honestly, this sounds like the most cozy cottagecore fantasy book I've ever heard, and like I couldn't even really figure out a way to describe it better than the description did, so I'm just gonna read that to you. It says, a baker's apprentice reluctantly embarks on an adventure full of magic, new friendships, and a prince in distress in this deliciously romantic young adult fantasy that's perfect for fans of Margaret Rogerson and Gail Carson Levine. Okay, next up we have What Happens After Midnight by K.L. Walther, and this is actually the author of The Summer of Broken Rules, which I purchased this year and have not read yet, but this one is actually set in the winter at a boarding school. Oh my goodness, we're having all the boarding school vibes on this list. It says Lily Hopper has 2 more weeks until she's officially finished with boarding school. With graduation quickly approaching, Lily is worried that she's somehow missed out on the fun of being in high school. So when she receives a mysterious note inviting her to join the anonymous senior class jester in executing the end of the year prank, Lily sees her chance to put her goody two-shoes reputation behind her. When Lily realizes the jester is none other than Taggart Swell, her ex-boyfriend, she's already in too deep to back out. Lily might have dumped Tag, but she still has major feelings. Plus, his brilliant plan to steal the school's yearbooks targets none other than Lily's prom date, the senior class president, Daniel. As the group of pranksters hide cryptic clues across campus for Daniel to find, Lily and Tag find themselves in close quarters. As the exes dodge campus safety guards, night owl teachers, a troop of freshmen, and even Daniel himself, new sparks fly, but old hurts and painful secrets refuse to be ignored. And with graduation on the horizon, Lily can only hope that breaking the rules will help mend her heart. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what new releases you are excited to read in 2023. And of course, as always, please let me know if there's any way I can be encouraging you or praying for you as we're kind of wrapping up this year and headed into the new year. I know that can be kind of an emotional time. So let me know how you're doing and if there's any way that I can be praying for you. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.